All right. So, Hollie Levine, Hollie Levine.
That's correct.
Democratic candidate for family court judge. And I believe you have some other lines.
I
as
do.
well,
I
like
do.
Independence, working family.
And libertarian.
And libertarian. It's an interesting mix.
It is an interesting mix, but being a judge is not about politics, so that's why I'm running on a whole bunch of different lines.
Right. All right, so let's start off even prior to getting into your legal experience. Let's just start with a biography. You're from this area. Tell me about that.
Yes, I was born in Ideal Hospital in 1960. My father was also born there. I've spent my entire life in Broome County, except for the time I was at SUNY Albany for undergraduate and Buffalo Law School.
Okay. All right, so now, and you live here in Binghamton?
I do. I live on the west side of Binghamton with my husband, Brendan Burns.
And then let's talk about your legal career. What did you do after first graduating from law school?
My first job after law school was at the Broome County Public Defender's Office. It was there where I first honed my trial skills, because as an assistant public defender, you're in court all the time.
Okay. And then from there?
My next job was at the New York State Attorney General's office, where I was in charge of the public advocacy. My next job was at the New York State Attorney General's office, where I was in charge of the Public Advocacy Bureau for the Binghamton office.
Okay. Did that handle things like consumer affairs?
Yes. As the public advocacy attorney, I was in charge of dealing with consumer problems that people had with businesses.
Okay. And then take us through where you are now.
Okay. I worked full-time in Broome County Family Court as a court attorney to a judge, so I have over 5,000 hours of experience in Broome County Family Court. For the last 20 years, I've been working for a mental hygiene legal service. I've been representing people, children and adults who have mental illness and developmental disabilities. I represent them in many, many court hearings involving their care and treatment.
So is that often situations where the state perhaps wants to confine someone or in some other way sort of infringe upon their freedoms?
The hearings that I represent people in are, it could be a person who's been hospitalized involuntarily and who wants to be released from the hospital. It could be the hospital's application to continue treating somebody in the hospital. It could be the hospital's application to treat somebody with medication or electroconvulsive therapy over their objection. I also represent many people in applications for guardianships that have been brought against them.
What's that work like?
I love the work that I do. It's great advocating for people and their civil liberties. It can be challenging at times because, of course, you're dealing with people who are in crisis. And as a family court judge, I would also be dealing with people who are in crisis. So I would be bringing those skills that I have honed over the last 20 years of working with people who are in crisis. I would be bringing those to family court.
What did you learn from your time in family court?
Well, I learned that it's very important to be very objective, to be fair, to listen carefully to both sides of the story. When you're seeing things from the perspective of the court, it's very different from being an advocate. You know, most of my career I have been an advocate, but for those 3 years that I worked in family court, I was able to see things from the perspective of the court.
Tell me some more about your time spent in family court and you know, just how
I'll talk to you.
Challenging that circumstance can be.
When I was working in family court, I was a court attorney to a judge. So I sat in on the hearings with the judge, I helped draft the decisions for the judge, and I tried to settle the cases on the judge's behalf. People come to family court, very few people are happy. The only happy occasion in family court are adoptions. So you're dealing with a lot of conflict. So you have to know how to deal with people who are highly agitated at times, try to keep things calm. So those are the challenges that you face as a family court judge.
How important in your mind is what goes on in family court?
Family court is, in my opinion, the most important court in our community. You're dealing with issues involving children and family, child custody, visitation, child neglect, abuse, juvenile delinquency. These are so important to our community.
Obviously, you know, there's limitations on what sort of things I can ask about, but one of the things I will often ask when there's a judge race is about temperament. Do you think you have the appropriate temperament?
I absolutely have the appropriate temperament to be a Broome County Family Court judge. I'm proud to have the endorsement of 2 retired Republican judges and a former Democratic judge who realize that not only do I have the experience that matters, but I have the character that counts. That's somebody who's a highly ethical attorney, someone who knows how to conduct themselves in the courtroom, who will treat everyone who appears in front of her with respect.
Are there any other personal skills that you possess that make you feel you're good for this line of work?
I've worked with a wide variety of people in my career, and I also have friends, and I've been involved in many community organizations over the years. My dedication to our community has been there since I was a young person. You can ask my classmates at Maynardville class of 1978. I was the head of the Youth Against Cancer, president of the Z Club, and then 30 years later, I was on the Board of Education of Maynardville School District. So I'm very dedicated to our community, and I think that's also an important aspect of being a family court judge.
Right. Well, I ask all candidates this question. Why is it that you want this position?
That's a great question, because family court judge is a very hard job. Being a family court judge is not, when we're electing someone to be family court judge, we're not picking someone who's going to be a legislator, someone like a congressperson who will be able to pass laws, or someone like a district attorney who can start programs. We are electing somebody who's got to work hard every day in the courtroom. I'm a hardworking, ethical attorney, and I believe I can bring those skills to benefit the people of Broome County to help make people's lives better.
Okay. And then this is always the question I end with, and I will admit it may call on you to repeat yourself, and feel free to, but I like to always give one last pitch opportunity to just say, sum up, why should people vote for you?
Okay. When we're picking a family court judge, we're not picking someone who's going to be a legislator like a congressperson. We're not picking someone who's going to be an executive like a district attorney. We are picking someone who's going to sit in the courtroom and have to decide the cases that come before them. We need someone who is hardworking, someone who is ethical, someone who's dedicated to our community. As I said, I've been endorsed by 2 former Republican judges, as I said, I've been endorsed by 2 retired Republican judges and a former Democratic judge who believe that I have the experience that matters, that's experience in the courtroom, the character that counts, and the dedication to community that we need in our next family court judge.
All right, so this is the point at which I always ask, is there something else you'd like to say that I didn't think to ask?
Let me think. Brendan, what do you think? Well, as far as my personal life goes, I was the child of divorce. I know what it's like as a child to live in a household where, you know, there are problems because of the divorce. I myself went through a divorce, and I have remarried and blended a family, and I think that perspective I will also bring to the bench.